It has been a little over a month.
You for inviting me.
So before there was the Fonz, people might not know this. Your big break in Hollywood was appearing on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. We're showing us some of it right now. Tell us about it.
I landed on September 18th, 1973 in Los Angeles. 5 days later, I got a four-line part on the Mary Tyler Moore Show, which was at the time one of the most popular shows on all of television.
And what was it like working with Mary Tyler Moore if you were so green and she was such an icon?
Penny, clever, blunt, dry-humored, warm in a way you had to earn. He didn't know then how much she would shape the world he was walking into. Soon enough, their paths crossed again, this time on Happy Days, the new hit sitcom that was reshaping American TV. Henry, now the instantly iconic Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli, was in full flight, and Penny, she stepped into that world like she'd always belonged there. As Laverne DeFazio, the tough gum-snapping tomboy from Milwaukee, she stole scenes with a single word, a single look, a single shrug. She made you laugh without trying, because she was real, so real that ABC built an entire spin-off around her and Cindy Williams, Laverne and Shirley, turning them into household names. Henry couldn't help but marvel even then. He'd seen actors work hard, clawing for attention, trying to be funny, but Penny didn't try. It just happened. He once said he'd watch her on set and think, wow, she's created the 21st century's Lucille Ball.
Well, first of all, because she was an icon, she was very warm, and what the team that was there was very supportive. And, you know, she was a powerhouse. She and her husband at the time, Grant Winkler, just dominated the television landscape with Mary Tyler Moore Productions.
And it wasn't flattery, it was fact. People loved Laverne because of Penny, the toughness, the slapstick, the strange sweetness under it all. She didn't look or sound like a Hollywood product. She sounded like someone you grew up with, someone you could drink beer with, someone who'd make fun of you, hug you, then borrow your car and crash it. She was real, and that made her electric. But what stunned Henry even more than her acting was how easily she transformed into something rare. A woman directing blockbuster movies in an industry that barely let women direct traffic. She moved behind the camera like she'd been waiting her whole life to get there. No fear, no fuss, just instinct, just the work. Big, the Tom Hanks classic, was hers. Then came A League of Their Own, another hit, the story of women playing baseball during wartime, delivered with grit, heart, and humor only she could balance. Penny wasn't just a director, she was a force. She bulldozed the wall that told women they didn't belong behind the lens. And she did it with a laugh in her throat and a smirk on her face, like she knew the joke before anyone else heard it. When Henry spoke about her after she passed, you could hear it. That mixture of admiration and affection that only comes from knowing someone long enough to see the layers.
In the 70s, you were an icon and she was an icon. I don't know how much you got to know her at all. But what do you think her impact was on the TV landscape at the time?
Well, one thing for sure is that she had the most incredible comic timing. Before the Mary Tyler Moore show, there was the Dick Van Dyke show, on which she was a major force. And she opened the door, along with Lucille Ball, for unbelievable comic women to come in and know that, yes, they could lead on a TV show.
He remembered how funny she was, but also how smart, how relaxed she always seemed. Even when she was doing a job most people would panic under, and how she never, not once, pretended to be something she wasn't. Totally unpretentious. Ron Howard said, Henry agreed. They all did, because Penny never had time for Hollywood's polished fakeness. She showed up on sets with the same Bronx DNA she was born with. Shoulders squared, voice low, a cigarette probably hidden somewhere nearby, and that sharp, sideways humor ready to cut through any nonsense. Henry recalled the way she worked on screen, inventive, unpredictable, warm. Whatever the script said, Penny always found the thing under it.
What do you think you're going to miss most about her as someone who knew her and also as a fan?
I would have to say that the missing her being, of course, no longer being here on Earth, but we do have the wonderfulness of all of her episodes on on television, and you can enjoy her wonderful sense of humor forever.
Are there any episodes or any performances of hers that resonated with you? I was just thinking the other day about the episode, and this might just be because I'm a journalist, the episode where she goes to jail to protect a source on the Mary Tyler Moore show.
The idea of I just like the whole entire body of work. I don't have one episode, but every time I see either Dick Van Dyke or the Mary Tyler Moore show, it is just magical. You start watching, and then you don't stop until the end. You're walking through a room, it's on TV, you sit down, and then you're there until the end.
She made words funnier, scenes warmer, moments stranger in the best way, and that was her gift, turning ordinary stories into something brilliant. The tributes came in from everywhere. Ron Howard talked about how lucky he was to have known her, how she impacted both TV and film with rare ease. Anson Williams remembered her bravery, how she fought for women behind the camera by simply doing the job better than the men who said she couldn't. Marion Ross imagined her reuniting with her brother, Gary Marshall, up in heaven, already turning the place into something bigger and brighter. Even in death, people were still telling Penny stories. Messy, funny, imperfect, beautiful stories about the woman who never asked for permission to be herself. Henry thought back to all those early days. The pilot she worked on when he had just arrived in LA, the way she made him laugh, the way she carried herself on happy days, the way she took a character scribbled in a script and turned her into a cultural giant, sweater stamped with a curly letter L and all. He remembered seeing her years later, watching her direct, command rooms, push for better takes, better writing, better performances. She didn't shout, she didn't threaten, she didn't posture. She simply knew what she wanted and somehow guided everyone else toward it. That was Penny, always sure, always sharp. At the Golden Globes, shortly after she passed, Henry paused to reflect again. He wasn't emotional because of nostalgia. He was emotional because he understood what had been lost. She wasn't just a star, or a director, or a Hollywood name. She was the rare person who changes things simply by showing up. He said she reminded him of Lucille Ball, not just because she was funny, but because she was fearless. She could take a room full of chaos and turn it into comedy. She could take a script no one believed in and make it sing. She could take a young, uncertain actor and make him feel like he belonged. When Penny Marshall died, Hollywood didn't just lose a celebrity, it lost a blueprint, a roadmap for how to be brilliant and humble at the same time, how to break barriers without screaming about them, how to make people laugh while telling stories that mattered. Her family released a statement that sounded exactly like her, direct, loving, and deeply personal. They described her as a Bronx girl who put a cursive L on her sweater and became a Hollywood success story.
We're showing a picture right now of her and Dick Van Dyke. I remember watching my first few episodes of the Dick Van Dyke Show when I was a kid. Boy, she really was the hero of that show, Laura Petrie.
But the thing is that you can't have one without the other. You have to have the yin and the yang. So completing the circle with Dick Van Dyke made that show magical. And then, of course, everybody else added in the mix.
And then she went on for that iconic role. She was nominated for an Academy Award in Ordinary People. Henry Winkler, thank you so much. An honor to talk to you, sir.
Thank you so much, and I'm so sorry it's under this circumstance.
Simple, true, perfect. She is survived by her sister, her daughter, and 3 grandchildren. But in reality, she's survived by millions. The people who watched her work, who laughed with her characters, who saw themselves reflected in her humor. Henry, all these years later, still smiles when he says her name because Penny didn't fade away. She left fingerprints all over the world she touched: television, film, comedy, directing, and most of all, the people who were lucky enough to stand beside her. And for Henry Winkler, the man who first met her as a young actor in a brand new city, that's what matters. Not the awards or the headlines, but the warmth, the creativity, the laughter, the fact that she made every set feel like home. When he speaks of her now, it isn't with grand speeches or dramatic claims. It's with gratitude, soft, sincere, earned over decades. Because some people leave quietly, Penny Marshall did not. She left the same way she lived, full of humor, heart, and that unmistakable Bronx spark. And Henry Winkler remembers, not because she was famous, but because she was unforgettable.